From WMC, the news center of the Mid-South, here is Action News 5.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Birch.
And I'm Brenda Wood. Jack Eaton will have sports and Dave Brown the weather later in this newscast.
Tonight, the city of Oxford and the University of Mississippi are in mourning. One more victim of a horrible accident near Oxford died tonight at the Med, bringing the death toll to 3. 13 other Ole Miss students were injured, 2 critically. It happened on Mississippi Highway 6, about 5 miles west of Oxford. The Chi Omega sorority was holding a charity walkathon from Batesville to the Ole Miss campus. Authorities say a truck collided with a walkathon escort car, which flipped and plowed into the walkers. Basil Hero has been in Oxford all evening. Here's his report.
The scene along Highway 6 near Oxford was devastating. At 2:25 this afternoon, a dump truck rammed into a car escorting a group of students from the Chi Omega sorority at Ole Miss. The girls were on a walkathon for the National Kidney Foundation. Investigators say the escort car flipped over on the girls after it was hit. 16 girls were injured. 2 of them died later at the Oxford Medical Clinic. 3 girls were injured so badly, air ambulance helicopters were rushed in from Memphis. The girls were taken to the Med's Trauma Center. As news of the accident reached Ole Miss, students began packing the emergency room. Hospital and university officials were left with the grim task of notifying the families of the dead and injured victims.
Well, the injuries range all the way from critical to minor. And so we have a couple that are going right now, or as you saw the helicopter leave, or have just gone.
We've certainly had situations in which there have been multiple car accidents in which a number of students have been injured, but not 16 of them.
No one knows exactly how and why the escort vehicle was rammed. State troopers say they're still trying to figure it out.
This time, the investigating officer tells me that there's no evidence of any alcohol in this accident, and he was not able to tell me whether any of the parties involved, either of the drivers, were wearing their seatbelts.
Tonight, the situation at the hospital here in Oxford is as bad as it can get. The doctors will be in surgery most of the night. Friends and relatives of the victims will have a long and terrible wait. Basil Hero, Action News 5 in Oxford, Mississippi.
The 3 girls critically injured in the accident were brought here to Memphis.
As we said, they were flown by helicopter to the trauma center at the Med. Reporter Ben Watson was at the Med throughout the evening. He is now back in our newsroom with the very latest. Ben?
Brenda, the girls arrived in separate helicopters. The helicopters landed on the roof of the Med about 30 minutes apart. Tonight, friends and relatives of the injured girls arrived at the Med. Hospital spokeswoman Linda Brigance told me the injured girls were taken immediately to specially trained doctors and nurses in surgical waiting rooms.
While that was going on, we were trying, with the help of the Mississippi Highway Patrol and the University of Mississippi officials, to identify the people who were brought here as opposed to the ones who were still in Oxford. And we've been in the process now of contacting family members, and some of them are en route now.
Of the 3 girls taken to the Med, one has died, according to reports to Action News 5 tonight. Her name has not been released. The 2 girls who died this afternoon in Oxford has been identified as Mary Langford of Atlanta and Beth Roberson of Greenwood. Brenda?
Thank you very much. Ben Watson in our newsroom. The Chi Omega sorority on the Ole Miss campus is well known for its involvement with charity. Tonight, Greeley Kyle was in Oxford as folks gathered to do what they could for the friends of the dead and the injured.
The Chi Omega sorority is one of the largest at the University of Mississippi. Tonight, the sorority house is filled to overflowing. There are tearful eyes and hushed voices as students come together to share their grief and to console each other. Associate Dean of Students Sparky Reardon says campus ministers have been comforting the students all evening.
There's no words to describe what's going on in there. It's hugging and crying and praying.
The situation was complicated because phone lines were overloaded and those students not injured had trouble notifying their parents they were okay. Everywhere students meet, the Chi Omega tragedy is on their minds.
It's something you don't want to believe. It's like a nightmare. You want to go back to sleep and wake up and have everything okay again.
The walkathon is a yearly fundraiser for the Chi-Os, as they're called on campus. The girls were 5 miles from the finish of the day-long event when the accident happened. In the town of Oxford, residents are first shocked, then outraged that the girls didn't have a police escort like they did last year.
They didn't have adequate protection, I don't think, or something like this never would have happened. And I think that's probably the general reaction most people I've spoken with.
State police spokesmen say they don't provide escort service, and the Oxford Police Department couldn't be reached for comment. Greeley Kyle, Action News 5, Oxford.
Students, faculty, and friends of Ole Miss will gather tomorrow at noon for a prayer service. It will be held in Fulton Chapel on the Ole Miss campus.